And it's just like, I think it's an incentive issue, and if we can get some, a program where we can offer it to anywhere in the United States, Canada, get a really good program, take care of everybody, no matter what repair facility that they go to, offer mobile mechanics and get a lot of features and benefits that are above and beyond the actual, what the dealerships are offering, and actually take care of the customer after they buy it. They're going to probably tell their friends, they're going to probably refer you business because there's got to be a better way. I love that saying, got to be a better, And so that's what I've kind of worked my life to do, is create a better program that's just more sustainable and more fair and more reliable than any other program else out there.
Hey everybody, this is Tom, and you're listening to the Outdoor Miles podcast, where we share tips, stories, and advice to make your RVing and camping adventures even better. All right, let's get started. Today, we're going to take a deep dive into the topic that's relevant to just about every RVer: warranties. Every year, hundreds of thousands of RVs are sold in the United States. And for many people, buying an RV can be the largest purchase that they'll make next to buying a home. It's not just a big financial investment. It's our ticket to adventure, your home away from home, and sometimes even your full-time residence. Protecting that investment is something every RVer should think about. And, we're all familiar with the moment at the checkout counter when we're asked, would you like an extended warranty for something like maybe a TV, a blender? And I think I had a small flashlight, $5 flashlight that I was asked for an extended warranty for. Most of the time, it's an easy decision and easy yes or no. But when it comes to your RV, the stakes are a lot higher. And it's a decision that can affect not only your wallet, but also determine whether a breakdown is going to sideline you for a trip or maybe a few months. I've personally have been recommending wholesale warranties for years now. And one of the main reasons is the people behind the business. They truly care about the RVers, and that makes all the difference in the world when it comes to choosing a company that you're going to give your business to. To help us unpack this complete topic of warranties, I'm joined by Jeff Shelton, who is the owner and the founder of Wholesale Warranties. Jeff has a deep background in the outdoor recreation world, and he started the company. And Wholesale Warranties has grown to really become one of the household names when it comes to RV warranties. So we're going to talk about warranties, what they cover, the ins and outs of how it works, and help you make the decision if this is something that's right for you. So let's get started. And Jeff, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. Love being here.
Great. Yeah, well, we're happy to have you, and we're on opposite ends of the country. I think you're out in San Diego.
Right? Yeah. Where are you at?
Okay, New York.
New York. Okay.
Yeah. So, how's your summer going?
So far it's been
travel?
Busy. Yeah. Not a ton of travel this year. I'm kind of a weekend warrior. Like a lot of my friends are like that. I always see on Facebook. They're out for 2 weeks at a time, and I've done those vacations before, and I get anxiety being away.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Facebook is like the curse of envy, because you wonder where do people work? How do they do this? They're traveling all the time.
Yeah, and I always see this podcast. It's like, you need to check out. You need to turn off your phone. I appreciate that. I can do it for a couple of days, but I think it causes me more anxiety not knowing that things are getting taken care of when I leave for like an extended period of time.
Yeah, definitely. Well, in terms of this summer, this season, how's business this year in terms of RVs? I think your company is probably a really good barometer for the RV industry in general.
Yeah. It's been a great year. I think it's been kind of interesting because everybody knows that COVID really was the pinnacle of RV sales, and people were paying over MSRP for their RVs, and you couldn't get one. Basically,
I know.
People were selling out left and right, so we knew that wasn't going to last. So It's been a little bit, it's been a decline from that pinnacle, or I would say it's a correction.
Yeah.
So now. So there's correcting. It feels like feels like it's slower because it is, but it's I think we knew when COVID was going on, years following that, it was just going to correct, and we've seen the correction. And I think this is the first year of kind of a bit of a bounce back from a little bit of a valley. Yeah,
and we've been living in the world of upcoming recession. Is it going to happen this summer? Is it going to happen next year? And it's been doing that. The news cycles have been talking about that for years now, and it's kind of I think it's hard to kind of gauge where things are moving with the the commentary on the news channels. But yeah, I think you're exactly right. COVID was kind of a once in a lifetime event, and it definitely had
Yeah.
big changes for the RV industry, camping, and getting people to do things that they normally didn't do. But yeah,
Mhm.
I agree. I think we're kind of settling back into that the normal trend, which is sometimes a good thing.
Yeah, and I think it's just the real RVers now. You had the, I know a lot of people that are just like, all right, I can't go anywhere else. I'm getting an RV. The RVs are dip the water and all right, we tried that. We did it for a couple summers, but then you have I think the diehard RVers for life kind of people,
Yeah,
that's the
definitely.
core.
Yeah, and I mean the campgrounds have been pretty busy. I mean they haven't been packed like COVID packed, but it's been pretty pretty full. Not impossible to get a spot, but definitely kind of still on that uptick from COVID, I think. So it'll be interesting to see where things go in the years to come. And speaking of that, anything interesting in the industry that you guys are kind of keeping your eye on, or things that might be happening in the world of RVing?
Well, I mean, I think it's the big thing is that what everybody's talking about, which is like tariffs and cost of parts. You know what I mean? I think that's one thing. I try not to watch that stuff because there's nothing
Right.
you can really do about it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You're just like spectating, and if it happens, it doesn't. But you know what I mean? And I think I think the concern in the industry is the cost of parts, availability of parts too.
Yeah.
And it's just something that that's just a tough reality sometimes when we've always dealt with like older motorhomes that have parts that are no longer being manufactured, but making sure that things are available, because you see it sometimes when there's a delay in a part or something like that, and you just can't get it fixed, and because you
Yeah.
can't find the part. So that's something that I don't I don't think I fully know what the impact would be, like like the shipping routes and stuff like that, and how they
Yeah.
try to get around that, the cost impacts. But it's something that I think everybody has their eye on.
Yeah, I mean that's the one thing I guess with RVs. They're made largely in Indiana, but all of the components
Mhm.
and parts are coming from Mexico, China. So like all like little bits of global disturbance, whether it's tariffs or global pandemics, could just really shake things up quite a
Yeah,
bit.
yeah, even the raw materials and stuff. So
Yeah.
it's interesting.
Yeah. Well, you definitely picked a really interesting career. I'm curious to hear about how you got into setting up a extended warranty company for RVing, and what drew you to that.
Well, it is kind of weird because I mean, I never think it is unusual, but I guess from the outsider, like, why did you start? Like, nobody really dreams of this as a child, but I did. No, I mean, no,
Good for you. I'm glad you did.
not really, but like, I grew up as an outdoors type of person. My family background is, we had marina facilities, still do actually, out in Minnesota. So grew up RVing and boating. And I knew I wanted to be in in that space. So after college, I got a job where, I was a finance and marketing major, and I wanted to get a job in somewhere in that spectrum. So what I did is I'd go around to the dealerships and I'd set their dealerships up with warranty programs. And
Okay.
basically my job was to explain how they worked, how to sell it, pros, cons, going through the contract, allowing them to offer it. And, I just saw like a really big opportunity because, I think there was just kind of a flaw in the model a little bit. I noticed that like a lot of the dealerships that I've set them up with the program, they always wanted the cheapest program.
Hmm.
They did just like get the price down as low as possible, try to make as much money as we can. And then you kind of dealt with claims issues. You know what I mean? Like, so you're like, all
Right.
right, I can get you this cheap program, but selling not the best coverage and saying it's the best coverage, because usually they don't have to deal with the customer a little bit later on. And
Right.
the other thing that I noticed too in that industry was that when you set up a dealership, and I would sometimes have to get involved with claims. I would get involved in claims and hashing deals out. And I always noticed that there's always claims issue whenever the client took the RV anywhere but that actual dealership. So, and it kind of like, why are they having so much problems getting claims handled outside that dealership? And you kind of come to realize is like, it's just the nature of the game is that
Right.
there's no incentive for the dealership to make sure that the customer's taken care of, because they'll just say, hey, you know what? We don't run into this issue. Take it back to our dealership to get it fixed. And then the warranty company's going to try to probably save a couple of dollars here. So they You know what I mean? If they could shave off money or
Right.
get, and you're just like, I think it's an incentive issue, and if we can get a program where we can offer it to anywhere in the United States or Canada, get a really good program, take care of everybody, no matter what repair facility that they go to, offer mobile mechanics and get a lot of features and benefits that are above and beyond the actual, what the dealerships are offering, and actually take care of the customer after they buy it. They're going to probably tell their friends. They're going to probably refer you business because there's got to be a better way. I love that saying. Got to be a better, And so that's what I've kind of worked my life to do, is create a better program that's just more sustainable and more fair and more reliable than any other program else out there.
Yeah, you guys have done a great job of that, and it's not a easy feat to accomplish that. So kudos to that. And and I tell a lot of people that are talking about buying an RV, and they're like, "Well, what type of RV should I get? What model?" And I tell people all the time, like, you're going to shop for the RV, but you also need to shop for the dealership, because it's not like buying a car where you buy your Honda in New York and you go to San Diego and get a service and everything's just nice and easy. It's very different than that. And I think for when it comes to warranties as well, you kind of have mimicked that you could just go out and buy your warranty through the dealer when you get your RV, but you don't know who the company is. As you said, like, if somebody has a problem, who are they going to call? And you kind of, really fit a gap that I don't think, was filled before you started up. So, thanks for the background on that.
Yeah, and I was kind of thinking with the dealership, it's a little bit like, I always think that, like, usually when you're a jack of all trades, master of none, and like, I was, when I started getting into this business, I was like, hey, we can offer insurance, we can do all this other products. And then, you kind of realize in business that, like, if you just do the one thing and do it really, really well, better than anybody else, and then that's all you really need to do.
That's great advice. Yeah. All right. Well, I think, warranties, we have experience, or the average person, when it comes to a warranty that we get with our car. And, for me, when I bought my new RV, I didn't know anything about RV warranties, but they are very, very different than automobile, warranties that you get through a major manufacturer. So I know there's a lot of confusion out there. And how would you describe what an RV warranty, extended warranty, is to a new RVer that, maybe bought an RV, they're thinking about buying an RV, and they're like, should I get one of these warranties? What is it? Do I need it? Just kind of give just a general background.
It's that, it's one of those things. If you had the crystal ball, it would be an easy decision. You know what I mean? It's just, we just don't have one. So it's like, do you want to risk it or do you want to go it alone? So, just like in the product itself, there's a lot of different features and benefits that, are particular to different programs, but the majority of them are all going to cover just your electrical and mechanical working components, and you have your regular insurance that covers your liability. If you get into an accident and you get, liability stuff, we kind of all know what that is, but like, you also have the warranty side, or, it's actually a service contract technically, but the extended warranty side of it is like, you have your manufacturer's warranty, because in case something breaks down, that's usually for your first year. Different appliances might have 2 years and stuff like that. And this will, basically cover those types of items, those mechanical failures, however long the term that you purchase. And I think that's the big unknown that people that they just don't know, like, how much these repairs are going to cost. And I liked how you said that earlier. And I'm sure we all do this. You always get offered that warranty on that $8 flashlight where you're like, there's no way I'm going to make a claim on this thing.
Right.
I'm not normally a warranty fan, but I really started this business because, with this product, we've seen $70,000 engine overhauls, and like, it's insane to people. It's even to me how quickly these repair bills add up. You see a $7,000 claim, you're like, oh, that's pretty nice. You're like, they did what? That doesn't, like, I get asked all the time, what do you see? I get surprised all the time, like, at how massive these repair bills are. And, and it's just, you just really don't know if you're going to get that one that gives you problems. Cause I remember, like, growing up with our RV, we had one that was, it was some issues, childhood memories of being stuck on the side of the road.
Yeah. Well, you got to think about an RV too. Like, you're towing or you're driving a huge vehicle that is going down the road. It's bouncing all over the place. You're parking it for a week. You're moving to another spot. And, they're built to be light, and they're also built to be as affordable as possible. So, things are gonna go wrong. It's not a matter of if something happens, it's about what it is, and can you repair it yourself? How hard is it to repair? And, there's so many different components in there that, just having that peace of mind for a lot of
Yeah.
people is just necessary.
Yeah. I remember like the RV that we had growing up. My dad's pretty handy and he fixed all the stuff. And it was pretty simple stuff. It was really just basically a box with some chairs
Right.
and couches on it. The electronics that they have now it's pretty mind blowing.
It's pretty amazing. Yeah.
The cool stuff that they have. And the more specific it gets, the more technical it gets, the more difficult it is to repair. And we just see these labor rates and stuff like that go pretty crazy now.
Yeah. When I bought my first RV, it was a used 2003 Sunray Smoky. I don't even think that brand exists anymore.
Yeah, I never heard of it.
No, it's probably I probably got the last model year of it. And I didn't know what I was buying, and I was like, okay, well, this sounds like a fun thing to do. And I towed it down to the campground, and I got everything connected. I turned on the water, and the cold water's coming out. Then I turn on the hot water, and nothing's coming out. And I'm sitting there. I'm like, what could it be? Maybe it's a clog in the line or whatever. And then I hear my 3-year-old daughter outside going, wow, look at that. It's a waterfall. And the water is just like pouring out of the hot water heater. So
Oh, no.
I learned to replace a hot water heater. The people that had it before I did, they didn't winterize the hot water heater. So it froze and busted.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of work. I had to do it because I had no choice. But you buy a new RV and you turn on your hot water and it's not working. After that first year, you're kind of SOL, because if that manufacturer's warranty is up, it's going to be on you to make that repair and fix it yourself. And and that's just one of the reasons why I think a lot of people consider an extended warranty when they get their RV, because that's such a short window. And especially if you're only using it like for weekends or a couple weeks here and there, that year goes by really fast. And then you have a very expensive responsibility on your hands.
Yeah. And I always kind of joke with people because like I see, like I used to do a lot of like the shows. I used to go to Quartzsite. And I was there for many, many years. And you kind of see the same people. And it's always funny because like I felt that a lot of the people are just like me. Sometimes they buy and then sometimes they don't, whatever, like, it's hit and miss. But like the ones that don't buy, it seems like they're always like, oh, I wish I would have. You always hear those stories. I wish I would have.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? No matter what, I think these people are like me. It's like, no matter what happens, you're going to make the wrong decision. You're somebody like, I'm going to skip this. And like, you're going to be thinking about this. And like, because I think they kind of come back on, oh man.
Yeah, definitely.
If I would have only.
Yeah, it's all like, risk tolerance. And, sometimes like you could tolerate a little bit of risk and sometimes you can't. But, it's a good thing that there's products like this out there because people, they want that assurance and, they don't want to have that big question mark 3, 4, 5 years down the road for their coverage. So in terms of the warranty types that are out there, can you just talk a little bit about, what's available and what different levels of different services are, customers can buy?
Yeah. Well, the way that we designed it is you can get different levels of coverage, obviously. Now, like with some of the most comprehensive packages, they're typically called an exclusionary policy, right? So exclusionary excludes certain items. And what it does is it's just an easier way to understand the contract because I feel like I know a pretty good amount. I know a lot about RVs, what's in and what's not, but I always get questions. Hey, is this covered? And I don't know what that thing is. I don't, you know what I mean? Like instead of looking through the contract and seeing if it's under the coverages, you just have to look at the exclusions. And then you go, okay, yeah, it's going to be covered, unless it's physically damaged,
Right.
That's the, and they just tell you what they don't cover. And then it's just a lot easier to understand. And obviously a little bit more, it's going to be more comprehensive. But then you can kind of go down from various packages of listed components, which are still really good programs. Pretty comprehensive, but they do have to just tell you what's on the RV. Like we have a very comprehensive listed program, and it's going to be most items that are typical for an RV. But you get $1 million Prevo, and they're going to have some things, that they're not going to have a hot tub listed. You're not going to have a wheelchair listed. You're not going to a wheelchair lift, listed. You're going to have some items that, just are a little bit outside of the average RV that are going to be in the listed component. And then I would kind of even scale down to a little bit more of the people that are looking for catastrophic coverage, more risk tolerant type of people. And what they like to typically gravitate towards is something that's going to cover your chassis, engine and chassis. Those things that are going to cost, over $10,000 to replace. You get obviously your engine, powertrain, drive axle, and all the electrics, components around making the engine go, alternator, radiators, and all those type of items. And then suspension systems, braking systems, things that kind of make it start, stop, and turn, and, steering and stuff like that. And those can be the really, really expensive. That's a little more, like catastrophic type of coverage available for you to just kind of protect the big stuff.
So you kind of have you could get as much coverage as you feel you need based off of the different packages. And then if you just want that like, oh crap moment coverage, then you can get that type of catastrophic coverage as well.
That's exactly it. Yep.
And are those only for, or are your products only for new RVs, or do you have packages available for used RVs?
Anything up to 20 model years old. So most RVs, I mean, there's depending on the mileage. So we can go back to 2005 and newer. And a lot of times, so like typically for a little bit more of like, the tendency is the older the RV, the more they do like those packages where it just covers, and like more catastrophic coverage or more listed components. We still have some exclusionary policies out there, but it gets a little bit more expensive, just because when you're starting to deal with, RVs around, 18, 19, 15 years old, you got a lot of components that aren't being manufactured in it. Mm-hmm. And that can be difficult and can be expensive,
Right.
And, if you are willing to go, hey, you know what, my tape player or CD player, those things are like, right. That goes out and fine, and like, if you have a little bit more risk tolerance, go, hey, if my refrigerator goes out, maybe I'll get I could, have to find something that fits in that spot, just getting those basic, forego some of those because those type of coverages just cover the big stuff that's going to, actually, kind of be catastrophic for your pocketbook. Because I've talked to a lot of banks. That's kind of one of the biggest reasons why people default on their loans and why they don't go back that far for, allowing people to do loans. Because if you have a breakdown, a lot of times they can't make their payment anymore and they default.
Right. Well, and RV loans are so unique too. I mean, I know you can easily get a 10-year, 15-year, and I think even up to a 20-year loan on an RV. And, that's a long time. So it's definitely to keep that in mind in terms of trying to protect that investment, especially because things are going to break. And then if I understand correctly, if you buy a new RV, while it's still under that first year of service, you can sign up for an extended warranty through wholesale warranties and not have to get an inspection. But after the year.
So the understanding is like a lot of times people always ask, like, if they get it brand new, what you can do is you can get an extended warranty on it. And that's typically where you're going to find the best pricing because they're going to factor in that you have a manufacturer's warranty. And people ask a lot. So like some people don't like to use the manufacturer's warranty because it's a little bit more of a hassle than the warranty programs that we have, which is understandable. I get it. But they, according to the policies, they do want you to use, they will require you to use the manufacturer's warranty, but they take that into account. When they price it out, like, so they know, because like, so, well, I have 2 years on this and 3 years on that. Like, I don't know what the warranties are on certain RVs, but when we put in our computer system, they factor that in, and then we take over after that. And then obviously the closer to your expiration and the more miles you put on it, if you have a motorhome, more gets a little bit more expensive, And then also sometimes they have chimes to readjust. Like sometimes have making models having issues, and they start seeing claims on it and raise their rates accordingly.
Yeah. Well, that's a really good segue, because I know when I bought my RV, you settle on the price, you go and sit down and finalize the paperwork, and then comes the pitch for the extended warranty through the dealer. And, that's, same with auto manufacturers and car dealerships, the RV industry or dealers, they make a lot of their money on selling those extra products like the extended warranties. And I just remember sitting there and saying, no. And that price kept going lower and lower and lower. And it was still really high, but it made me realize that there is a lot of markup in there. And then when I came across wholesale warranties, and I know that, your prices are much more competitive in eyes of the consumer when it comes to affordability than if you were to buy that same coverage through a dealer. And is that one of the kind of selling points that you think you offer the market, is being able to go direct?
And it's obviously, it's like, I don't, kind of even going back to when I would set up dealerships, they always try to because you're just dealing with words. They always try to get the cheapest programs out there. So we're always going to be like, yeah, we will probably beat your dealership's price, but that's not usually how we, that's not what we're looking to do. You know what I mean? Like, that's not what we're there to get the best value. I bet the ROI, return on your investment. I think we can very confidently say that. We don't want to necessarily cut corners as far as coverage and give you a lower coverage to get you a cheaper price. And if we do, that's fine. You're going to say, hey, Tom, this is just an engine and powertrain warranty. You're going to save a lot of money on this. But realize this is what you're not, just being transparent about exactly what you're getting and what you're not getting. Because I think that's one of the things or the frustrations that I had when I was setting up dealerships, is they're selling a little bit of lower coverage. And they say it covers all these, everything, but it doesn't. And then now I have to talk to the customer because he's upset the way it was sold,
right. And when you're buying that RV, and you're sitting in that sales room, you're likely making that decision within like a 5 to 10 minute window. Like, you don't have a lot of time to think about it and
read the contract.
Right. Yeah. And that's one of the things, when I always recommend wholesale warranties, I said, even if you're not sure about a warranty, give them a call, ask all the questions you have. They'll stay on the phone with you as long as you want, get back to you with any information that you need, and really make an informed decision. Because when you're in that 10-minute window of signing that contract, you've probably been negotiating for a long time and just want to get home, get out of there, and you make a quick decision. So I think, knowing that you can get good or better coverage than what you can get at the dealership, and have that time and flexibility to kind of think it through, talk with the industry professionals, and find out all of the answers to the questions that you have, is just a really smart thing to do. And just pause and breathe and then decide.
Yeah, not buy now or you're never going to get this price again, or whatever gimmick, that they have.
I bought mine at the Hershey RV show. And it was the end of the day, and I was so exhausted, and I was like, I just want to go home. And I was like, it is like, it's a tiring process to buy an RV.
Yeah. Especially if you get a loan on it, they're just selling the payments too. And they're like, well, it's only $30 a month for the next, or 240 months.
Right.
You're like, oh God, that's a long time.
Yeah, that's a really good point to make. I mean, that's one of the things that the price may look a little bit lower at the dealership when they roll it into the loan. But if you add that up over the course of the years, you get a sticker shock to see what you're paying for that coverage. So it definitely helps to shop around, and you're not going to lose out. Like, if you don't get that RV warranty that day, you can call the dealership the next day and be like, I want to add that. They're going to say, okay. But it also gives people the opportunity to give you guys a call, or any other company that's out there. So what are some things that RVers should look for or watch out for when they're choosing a warranty provider?
Well, I think a good place to start is reputation, and making sure that there's people that have made claims, and make sure that the process is easy, and with any warranty, like the thing that I always kind of preach from the mountaintops is, like, the big part is you always just have to get a pre-authorization. And whenever I talk to people, they're like, yeah, of course, you can't just hand in receipts, but that's whenever I deal a lot with the customer service. So sometimes I forgot. Like, that's when challenges kind of come up. So, but yeah, making sure they have a good reputation. And also, if you're looking at the dealership warranty programs, making sure that you can take your RV anywhere. There's no network, and mobile mechanics is getting more and more prevalent. just having somebody come out to you to fix these things is really, really a key issue. So a lot of these programs won't allow you to use, mobile mechanics, or you have to jump through so many hoops to use somebody. The convenience of using a mobile mechanic kind of goes out the window. And then also check out your exclusions. There's a lot of like little hidden exclusions that will, sometimes make them deny a claim, which, usually gives them a little bit of wiggle room. And what I always typically see is like I said, like if it's a dealership program, most of the best, there's some good dealership programs out there that are, really designed. Most of them are designed to be used at that dealership and work pretty well because they don't bite the hand that feeds them. It's just when you take it elsewhere, that's where you're really running to some issues as far as like, getting claims denied or hung up at those repair facilities because they haven't seen those repair facilities before. They haven't worked with them. So we have a whole network. We have, you don't have to use a network, but we do have a network of, recommended providers that we use to recommend to our customers. We use a website called RV Repair Direct, which gives you listings of all these, places that have used our program and work with us really well. And, you just basically, hand them your documents and things get handled. And it's a pretty simple process, So
Yeah. You know what? And I've heard horror stories of people that, they might have something simple like their, fridge isn't working right, and they take it into a dealership or an RV shop, and it sits there for, 3-4 months before they even get it back. So things like the mobile mechanic where, you can have or access to that type of service so that you can actually use your RV during the camping season rather than call up every day and say, where's my RV? When can I use it? I have a camping trip coming up.
Yeah. Especially if you have a motor. If you have a motorhome, you got to drive it out there and then get a ride back too, And usually your RV doesn't break down when it's convenient. Usually you're like,
no, it's not in your driveway. It's going to be, a couple states away.
Yeah. So if you have an AC going out, it's 100 degrees, that's going to be something you want to have somebody come out in the campground, take care of, and have that claims process as quick as possible. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think that, that's probably one of the best selling points of having that, because, having access to that service is great, but then also having like, your company that like, if you have a problem, there's a phone number that you can call to figure out, all right, this air conditioner stopped working. What do I do to get it working again? How do I get through this warranty process? And having kind of that team that can kind of help you through that is vital.
Yeah. And one of the when I first started in this business, I sold an RV to this guy that I knew he was kind of in movies and he's somewhat like I knew what he did, so I Googled him. I was like, oh, he's extremely well-to-do. He had a prevost that was over $1 million. And I was like, and he got a policy, and I'm like, all right, look, I was like, by the way, you're in movies. He used these motorhomes as studios for famous people to go in and do their makeup and stuff like that. And it's like, so I think you're pretty well do. What made you go with the warranty? This kind of stuck with me, and it's kind of stuck with me ever since. It's like, well, it's like whenever I get these things repaired, I don't know how much they cost. And I know that like in my area, people have been getting taken advantage of because they see your RV and they're like, you're going to pay whatever you're going to pay. You know what I mean? Like, so the other big thing that I always let, people know is like with these warranty programs, that at least the best ones, you're going to pay full retail parts and labor. However, with the RV industry specifically, it's kind of like the wild, wild west where
right.
There's nothing that regulates what somebody can charge. You could charge and it's not illegal. And it's very difficult for people to find out how much these things how long they actually take to get repaired. Like if you have an Acura and your alternator goes out, you could probably say alternator, how much that costs? And it'll give you probably a $50 range. Like it would be within $50. Right. It would be very close. But with RVs, you just don't know. And that's why, like, he's like, yeah, and I know these warranty companies, he actually knew more about this stuff than I did starting out. And he's like, I know that you guys use the Spader book and they use, these recognized rates. And I know that I'm not going to overpay for these repairs because I've just been killed every time I have somebody come out. And I was like, and they just kind of never forgot about that. And it was like, man, the guy's right.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I've never thought about that, but yeah, it's really, really true. Speaking of like RVs, kind of, a lot of times people will say, well, your RV is going to eventually have a problem. Something's going to break. I don't think any time rang truer for that than people talking about COVID RVs, saying that don't buy an RV that was, built during the COVID year or two. because they,
Yeah, yeah.
broke down. Have you seen any truth to that, or is it kind of just, social media
I've
kind of
been
gone wild?
No, I think, well, I've seen people tell me about that. And I've seen, so like, this is what I'm always trying to wonder is like, I think my answer is yes, but there's an asterisk to it. It's that the pricing of the cost of repairs went up so dramatically since COVID. Because obviously we all dealt with inflation, like
Hmm.
it was, whatever percentage it was. But for repairs, like I remember being just before COVID, it was pretty common to see $125 an hour. And
Right.
now it's $225 an hour, probably $100 like difference within 6 years. Woo, that it's insane. So it's like, so I'm seeing these repair bills go up. So I'm not sure if it's a COVID thing, but because it's gone up dramatically. So I'm like, I'm really trying to dig into the numbers a little bit and going, is it the COVID RVs? Or are they getting more complex? So my short answer
Right.
is I think so, but also it's like every year, these are getting more complex and they're also getting out of manufacturer's warranty. So there's like, it's still, I think it's a little bit too early to tell if,
Right.
what is the leading driver? Is it that it was built poorly? Is it that there's more sophistication and the price, like it's all kind of maybe compounding to be my guess,
Yeah. And I think if social media existed back in the 80s, there would have been people on there saying, don't buy an RV that was built during the 84 recession. It would have been the same thing as it was with COVID. One thing that I want to ask you about are repair costs. So like we know that the cost for making a repair is going to just go up year after year after year. So if I were to buy a warranty today, and 5 years go by and repairing that refrigerator is double to what it is today, um, are there costs, does the coverage still cover that, or are there, things that I have to worry about down the road?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's always going to be full retail parts and labor. With anything that we offer. You know what I mean? I can't speak for every warranty program, but most of them should be. They're on the hook for whatever it costs. So it's like it is kind of an inflation protector because no
Right.
matter what their RV repair costs then versus now is, it is what it is. And I think I think if they could go back and readjust their pricing during 2020, I think they probably would because nobody saw the kind of, the inflation that we've been dealing with. But, it's, yeah, they're stuck with they're stuck with you. That's why I typically like to recommend longer term policies too, because not only is your RV costs going to go up in 5 years, the likelihood's going to go up too. So if
Right.
you just remember to use it, it's always better it's always more cost effective to get longer terms, to cover the length of ownership versus, buying a couple years at a time and renewing. But,
Yeah,
and that's
that's great
something
to
that,
know.
and that's something we always kind
So
of walk people through.
yeah, well, that's your team is so good at communicating the ins and outs of your programs to the customers. Um, can you give an example of just say like I was RVing, I broke down in Florida. We'll use the air conditioning example again. I need to get it fixed. How does that work? Like, what do I do as an RV owner with the warranty through wholesale warranties to get the service that I need?
Yeah, well, there's a couple of the simplest way, what I always like to explain to people is the process of making a claim really isn't that much different than it normally would be on your own. Because like what you'll do is so the simple version is like, when you get your RV fixed, you go in, you say, hey, look, my slat out's squeak doing this or engine's doing that or leveling system's not working. And they'll go, okay, cool. They don't know what's wrong with it yet. They're going to diagnose it and go, hey, we need to replace that leveling jack, and this is how much it's going to cost. And then you have the time. Then you're able to say, yes, I'll go ahead with the repairs or not. At that moment, the only thing that changes is they'll just call the warranty company to get pre-authorization because they want to know, hey, is this that's the only difference. And then they'll get pre-authorization, make the repair, and they'll get paid via corporate credit card. As far as like finding repair facilities and stuff like that, we do have resources. We use RV Repair Direct, which is a bunch of repair facilities that we've worked with all across the country. We can assist you in trying to finding somebody. We also offer some roadside assistance if need be. So it's always on you. And we always like say, like, we have people that we worked with, but we don't necessarily try to recommend anybody specifically just because, you know what I mean? Like that's the part of the process where, I wish we could have more control on the quality of repairs. And that's been a topic of RVers since I think RVs existed, is trying to get good mechanics out there. And, if you have a good mechanic, hold on to them because these things aren't easy to fix. I don't envy that position. And it's a tough thing from a consumer standpoint because you don't know if they're treating you fairly, and you don't know, and sometimes they try to fix it and they didn't, you get charged, $2,000 for a repair bill that did nothing,
Yeah. I mean,
it's a complicated thing.
And these technicians, they're part contractors, they're part plumbers, part electricians, part auto mechanics. So it's kind of like if you find the right one, stick with them. And and I guess like if you're having trouble finding somebody, RV or Wholesale Warranties is there to kind of give you some ideas of who is available in your area to call, and will help you through that process.
Yeah, and like you said, it is tough because like with an RV, it's not like, hey, I work on diesel engines. Okay, great. No, can you do slide outs? Can you do leveling check? Can you do refrigerator repair? These are totally different types of skill sets. Right. And most of the time, one person can't usually handle that. So usually the big shops, have mechanics that work on specific things that they specialize in.
Right. Oh, I guess we're coming close to the end of our talk here, and I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much. But what do you feel sets Wholesale Warranties apart from other providers that are out there? If you had to give your elevator speech to say, hey, just come check us out, versus going with somebody else.
Well, as far as like our comprehensive programs, we have this, the most comprehensive programs available on the market. I've studied the market, took a look at exactly all the features that you're going to want for that top comprehensive package. And then we also try to go through, walk you through exactly what you're going to probably need for that type of RV. Because sometimes maybe for more simple RVs, sometimes that might be a little bit of an overkill, you could save a few dollars and then we'll let you know exactly what you're missing. And also figuring out your deductible options. We try to weigh out the options to really try to find, the best fit for your risk tolerance, because maybe a higher deductible might be a better feature. If you can save a couple of dollars and you're more comfortable paying, $500 out of pocket instead of $100, hey, let's try to get that payment down and take a little risk yourself. And making sure, I think the word that I always like to use is full transparency. Right. We want you to know what's not covered too. Let's talk about that. And if you want these items that we can't cover your maintenance items. We can't cover physical damage that you broke. That's your insurance. You know what I mean? Setting realistic expectations, right off the bat so that you understand exactly what you are and are not getting from these packages, and not having that. Nobody really likes to talk to salespeople. We're just informative. We just tell you what your options are, give you different pricing packages, and it's it's up to you.
Great. Well, what if somebody wants to get a quote? They want to see, well, how much is it going to cost me to get a package for my new RV? How do they do that?
Yeah, they can reach us at wholesalewarranties.com or 800-939-2806. So wholesalewarranties.com. Fill out a quote form. Let us know what you have, and then we could get you. Try to customize it. We'll probably give you a call and just kind of walk you through a couple different options and send you an email and give you your various pricings with deductible options and coverage options. Yeah,
great. Yeah, well, definitely go to their website. I think filling out or getting a quote, you can fill out a form online very easily. You do it at 3:00 in the morning. Somebody will call you the next day, and then if you are getting a quote and you decide to go through with protection, you can, correct me if I'm wrong here, Jeff, but if they mention Outdoor Miles, they can get a wheel and tire protection coverage included.
That's correct.
Service?
Tire and wheel, and also we, so we get tire and wheel coverage. So obviously, tires can be pretty expensive, pays for your tire repairs, and for the full length of the contract. And then also we work with Passport America now too. So you can get a free year of Passport America. Discount Camp Club if you're not familiar with them.
It's awesome. It's great. Yeah, I've used it before.
Yeah.
Great. Well, that's wonderful. And, I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast that I have been recommending your company for a long time, not because you you have a good product, which you do, but you have a really good team behind your business. And I think when it comes to anything, whether it's RVing, buying a car, buying a house, buying a different type of product, if you like and believe in the company and you know that they value you, I think that goes a long way to kind of having a good experience. And it sounds like that's what you want. You want transparency. You want customers to know exactly what they're getting, and have the coverage that they need, or the coverage that they choose and want.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Appreciate that. Thanks, Tom.
Sure. Well, with that, do you have any parting words of wisdom for us, or anything that you want to mention before we sign off here?
I always end any call. If you ever get a warranty, make sure to get pre-authorization. That's the only thing that, I always kind of joke with people. It's like, that's the biggest thing that we do. Because, most, the claims process is very, very simple, because people always want to know about that. So, and besides that, safe travels.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And hopefully we'll connect again in the future, and we'll have another conversation. So thanks, Jeff. Enjoy the rest of your summer. And to everybody that's listening, wholesalewarranties.com, check them out. And if you have any questions, reach out to them and they'll get you answers. And as always, if you are watching on YouTube, hit the like, subscribe button, and there's a little bell notification. If you click that, you'll get notified when we put out new content, whether it would be a how-to video or maybe another podcast. All right, happy trails. Enjoy your summer, everybody, and we'll catch you next time.